My name is Holly Bush. I write historical romance. My latest book is called To Wed. It is the sequel to Train Station Bride. Last week, I read part of the prologue where our heroine, Jolene Crawford Crenshaw, is at the end of the graveyard service for her husband, Turner. We know that her father has handed she and her sister into their family carriage. Now, I'm going to pick up where we left off last week. You've no need to trouble yourself, Jennifer. Certainly there is something you would prefer to be doing other than holding my hand and making dreadfully repetitive small talk. Jennifer stared at her incredulously. Jolene, she said softly, you are my sister, and your husband has just died, a young man no less, a tragedy. I will stay with you while you make your greetings to Turner's friends. Julia would as well if she were able to be here. Julia? Their sister Julia would as likely poison her wine as comfort her, or share the burden of greeting guests. Highly unlikely, Jennifer. Julia would pay me no kindness, as you well know. Jennifer shook her head. That is not true. She looked to their father for affirmation, but he was determinedly staring out the window at the carriage. The coach was silent until Jolene heard Jennifer sniffle, and she watched her sister wipe her eyes. Turner is with little William now, and of that I am glad, Jennifer said. There was a buzz then in Jolene's ear so loud that she could not think for a moment, did not remember that she was to be the grieving widow. She leaned forward, the muscles in her face tight and pinched, and she was uncertain if she would be able to speak. But she found her voice, albeit strident and cruel, even by her own standards. Do not mention my son's name in the same sentence as my husband's ever again. In fact, do not ever say my son's name again, you silly, ugly girl. Such sentimental drivel is no doubt why you are still unmarried. Jennifer blinked furiously, and her lip trembled. She looked away, and Jolene settled back in her seat. She was surprised when Jennifer spoke again. You may push away anyone that loves you, Jolene, for as long as you want. I love you, you see, and so does Julia, and I loved little William with all my heart. I will mourn him, choose to think of him, and speak about him when I wish. I was not his mother, and could not imagine the pain you were and are in, but grief is not a thing to guard jealously, as if you were the only one to feel it. The carriage rolled to a stop, and Jolene barely waited for the servant to help her step down. Her hand shook and her stomach rolled over as she entered the marble foyer of Landonmore. She yanked the black satin ribbons of her bonnet and dropped it as she climbed the stairs. She entered her sitting room, dismissed her maid, locked the door to her apartments, and tore at her black jacket till buttons flew and it was off. Jolene dropped to her knees and struggled for breath. She pictured her son, William, at 3, running and laughing, his chubby little legs churning. She could still feel when he climbed onto her lap when they were alone and held her face still with his hands. He would say, Mother, look at me, Mother. And Jolene would pretend to look elsewhere until they both dissolved into giggles. Jolene crawled to a trunk near her reading chair and pulled a key on a ribbon from within the folds of her dress. With shaking hands, she unlocked the trunk and pulled a worn blanket from inside. She buried her face in William's blanket and breathed deep. Jolene rocked back and forth on her haunches and held the tattered wool to her nose. I hope you've enjoyed that. That was the second part of the prologue to To Wed. This book is available as a print book and an ebook on Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and Smashwords. And if you're interested, please contact me if you have any questions. There's a contact form on www.hollybushbooks.com. You can follow me on Twitter at HollybushBooks. Thank you.